Hello, and welcome to You Write, the podcast where creativity meets community.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Rachel.
Each week on You Write, we challenge our listeners to write a story in just 30 minutes using 3 of 5 randomly generated words.
It's a fun and fast-paced exercise to spark your imagination and get those creative juices flowing.
We'll read your submissions, offer feedback, and discuss the unique twists and turns of each story.
Whether you're an aspiring author or just love a good tale, You Write is your place to explore the endless possibilities of storytelling.
So find you some good, clean snow. Make sure you gotta pee. And let's dive into this week's stories.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, and remember, the only limit is your imagination and 30 minutes. Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
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 Don't you think that was, I don't know, like, do you think that a female would be able to write in the snow with pee? I mean, it'd be very hard.
Yeah, I figured you could speak to the efficacy of that method.
Well, okay, so I think that it would take a lot of control because you'd have to just let it
Poise.
a lot of poise.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to let it dribble out very, very slowly. And also you'd have to kind of like do like a shuffle.
Yeah.
You know, like a...
I mean, I don't, but yeah.
I'm imagining like kind of a squat.
Yeah.
A squat shuffle, kind of like a crab walk, but without the hands.
Uh-huh.
And you're just like shuffle. I guess you could use your hands.
This is such an image.
And just like shuffle, like scuttling. You'd have to scuttle around really, really fast.
Lots of poise.
Or have tons of muscle control. Like not only of the pee muscles, but also of your body. Because you'd have to be in that kind of crab position for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't really have, control over the direction to the degree that us dudes could.
Well, no. I mean, that's why you'd have to scuttle around to make letters and words.
Yeah.
And, after it would take a long time to make like a couple of letters.
Yeah.
And then to make a whole story.
Yeah, we're talking probably over at least 2 hours.
I was thinking
you gotta like
months.
fill up,
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be quite an undertaking.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Oh, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's one that I'm willing to try.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll report back
okay.
whenever we have more information.
Perfect. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. Well, how's it going?
Good. It is very, very cold here.
It is stupid cold.
It is stupid cold. And we have like a dusting of snow.
Yeah, it's dry snow. Like it just blows across the street. It doesn't actually stick to anything.
Can you imagine trying to like ski on that right now?
Wasn't that what like powder is? Like fresh powder is like that really dry, flaky.
Yeah, but it's
you just sink
patchy.
in it.
There's nothing to sink in here.
Oh, well, here, no.
And I'm saying right now.
Oh.
Here.
Could I imagine skiing here, this flat plane?
Yeah.
No. It's very, I guess if we had enough, which we don't, snow, you could be pulled behind.
Yeah, I was imagining that too.
That's more like water skiing at that point.
Yeah, right. But not on water.
Right, on snow.
Yeah, you could like strap yourself to a couple of work kitties.
And shout and mush.
Yes. And have them romp through the not snow.
What would you call that race? Because there's the famous dog race, dog sled race, the Iditarod. Yeah. What would you call?
I would call it the Ikitarod.
Of course you would. It's adorable.
Oh.
Ikitarod.
Ikitarod.
And then they get real serious and they just start using like panthers and jaguars and
yeah. I feel like cheetahs would do it. Like you can train cheetahs.
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah.
Also, I can't think of any big cats that like, ooh, snow leopards. That's it.
Oh, we get harness snow leopards.
Notoriously endangered, but I'm sure they'd be down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
It'd be so fun.
Oh, yeah. They'd love it.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know they would. Positive. How are you doing?
Oh, quite well. I had jury duty today.
What?
Yeah. I was excused, so it's fine.
I was say, did you get chosen?
No.
Well, why did you not get chosen, do you think?
Because they told me to go home.
Oh, well, that's how you know that you didn't get chosen, but why didn't they choose you?
They didn't volunteer that information.
But what do you think?
I'm going to say my devilishly good looks.
Probably.
That's got to be
it.
it.
Yeah. They're like, you know what? This is going to be distracting for the rest of the jury.
Yeah.
To have to look at you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did they like ask you questions?
No. They just sent me home.
They just looked at you and knew?
They just sent me home. Again, they didn't volunteer any reasons.
Did they look at you?
I don't know.
How did you know that you had gotten sent home?
Because they did not include my number to come back.
Okay. Wait, so let me get this straight. You show up, you sit there, you don't even know if anybody's looking at you.
Uh-huh.
And then you go home.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Did you see all our stories this week?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm so excited. You know, I did think that there was only going to be one story, but turns
with
out,
the gentle prodding of Steve.
Yes.
We got the others to
Thank you, Steve.
submit.
Just submit.
Submit.
To his will. Thank you, Steve, for that. And thank you everyone else for finally submitting.
Yeah.
To us.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for your submissions.
Yes, thank you for your submissiveness, sis.
Okay. So,
who did we decide to read today?
This week we are reading an untitled story by Mexikim.
Yes. Yes.
So this is an untitled story by Mexikim. I stand there, completely focusing on the monitor as the artificial heartbeat slows down. At that moment, I forgive her. More for me than for her. Does she know how much I love her? The last time my mother's heart beats, I'm there, watching her. My brother, overwhelmed with grief, breaks down. My sister, only 13, gives way to sobs. I hold her. My grandmother, who hadn't even raised my mother nor spoken to her voluntarily in months, yells at me. Why? Why did you do this? Mi hija, pobrecita, mi hija. I tell her sisters to get her out of there and take her to a private room. We're separated only by curtains from others' pain. The glare from my uncle cuts through me. He attempts to blame me for his own guilt over not being able to make amends with his only sister. My younger uncle, Mom's baby brother, stands proudly as tears spill from his eyes. He loves her. He told her often. His wife was a blessing. They took my mom in without asking for anything in return. I will be thankful to them for the rest of my life. I see her older brother in the corner of the room. He weeps silently. My mother's father, this is only the second time I've seen him, so he's not really my grandfather, kisses her and walks out. I have yet to see him again. My sister is being comforted by a cousin she's close to now. Everyone has someone to hold them. I continue to stand there, surrounded and alone. I can't cry. Everyone undoubtedly thinks it's because I don't care. Someone has to be strong, I tell myself. Upon realization of what has occurred, I immediately fill with regret. Did she know I was there? Did she know, despite the turmoil in our relationship, the hell we put each other through, did she know I love her? The last time we spoke, it took her a while to remember who I was. The stroke took a big toll on her memory. Did she know I love her? The sobs of others slowly fade out. I don't really hear them anymore, but they're there. The lack of mine makes that ever so evident. Don't get me wrong, I want to cry, but my mother would say there's no point. I may feel regret, but I'm not sure that's what it is. Why didn't I tell her I loved her every chance I got? Why did my pride get in the way? She never asked for forgiveness, so I never offered it. Did I give it too late? In her last moment of consciousness, did she know I, her middle child, the one so different from all except her, did she know I loved her? I never had an answer to that. Not an answer from her, who is the only one who can provide a satisfactory one. Few times in life do you realize you're at a turning point. I don't know it, but that's where I am right now. I don't remember the rest of that day, nor the entirety of the next. There are bits and pieces, dreams and faded memories. The only reason I know those days passed is because they have to have for it to be present time. The wake takes place on Friday. I sit in the back of the funeral home. I don't know the majority of these people, my family by blood. Some approach me and tell me they know that I have to be Guerra's daughter, because I look just like her. How am I doing? Do I need anything? Yes, I need you to leave me alone because I don't know you. I need to figure out if there's any confirmation that my mother knew I loved her. I can see her lying there in the coffin, the one we picked out yesterday, or years ago. I can't really tell. I hear whispers, everyone wondering why they haven't seen me for so long. Why haven't I been around? The blame. I feel it getting heavier. What if they're right? They don't know I called my mother at least once a week. They're unaware I checked up on her. They don't know she called me when she was lonely. They don't know that that broke my heart. They don't know the regret weighing on my being right now. They don't know how much I love her. I keep waiting for the feeling of absolute certainty, the unwavering confidence that my love was something she knew about. I still wait. Saturday, August 22nd, the last day I will ever see my mother's face. I sit in the front row. My brother and his family sit to my left. One of my aunts isn't here. Well, she's the only one I notice missing. She's mad at me. Did I notice that Mom still had her rings on? Why are we not keeping them? Because they're Mom's. She hates when we take her things. One is engraved with the word Mom. It has all our birthstones on it, even the birthstone of the twins we never got to meet. She'll wear it for the rest of forever. Here comes the lines of people. I'm sorry for your loss. I want to ask if any of them know if my mother knew I loved her. This plagues me. The room is empty now, except for a select few. My siblings and I surround the casket. I don't know about them, but I'm kind of hoping to gain some peace here. I don't. Look at her. How calm she looks. There's no pain there anymore. That, at least, is comforting. It's time to close the lid. This is the second time I've had to sit in the front row at a graveside. It sucks just as much as the first time. No, it's worse. I'm not really here. The limo takes us back to our cars at the funeral home. Everyone is gone. They've left to my uncle's house, the guilty one. There's a cookout. That's what you do to celebrate life. You eat. I don't stay long. I'm not comfortable here. It's time to go home. I drive in silence. I'm halfway home. I need to call Mom to tell her I got this far okay. She always tells me to call her when I get halfway. I pick up my phone and dial. After the third ring, reality hits me. I let it go to voicemail because I want to hear her. I'll do this several times. I just want to ask her if she knows I love her. I never get the chance. I'm almost home. A friend calls. She tells me she loves me and will be there should I need someone to cry with. I'm glad she doesn't offer the words of comfort that are so cliché. I tell her I love her too, just in case I don't get to see her again. She needs to know that. People need to know they're loved. I know that now.
Wow.
Indeed. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that one, after I read that one, I couldn't read anymore for a while.
Yeah, I had to put the subreddit away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one actually affected me quite a bit whenever I read it.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very real. I know that it's Mexikim's real life story.
Yeah.
And it's just a very like vivid description of all of the feelings and uncertainties and kind of like the desperation of wanting something that you are never going to have,
Yeah. 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 This form of grief, there's so many different instances that we see how she's grieving and the role that she is playing in this process for others' grief as well.
Right.
The most notable, in my opinion, is someone needs to be strong. That's the through line that I get. And that nobody else is there to be strong.
Right.
So it's up to her. It's very powerful in that message alone. That this grieving daughter is the one left to be strong for everyone else around her. That's and the pain of this, and like you mentioned, the uncertainty of that. It's just a very powerful story.
It is. And it's really not fair that the daughter and one of the youngest ones has to be the one that's strong.
Yeah.
It's really not fair. It's like, why can't the older people get their shit together enough to be supportive?
To offer some comfort.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're not, and they can't, and they won't.
And the best we get are like platitudes and just cursory acknowledgement.
Right.
Is the greatest comfort that is lent.
Yeah, that's very, very frustrating, and I can really relate to that. And it kind of makes me want to. It really makes me want to like be older and be the strong one for whenever things like that happen.
Yeah.
So that younger people don't have to like carry that burden.
Yeah. Yeah. To offer strength where none was offered to you. Kind of change change this mentality.
Exactly. Yeah. And just like the frustration of all of these people not knowing everything that Kim and her mom were to each other, and just like assuming things and just, and Mexikim is never one to, I don't know, sing her own praises or to, tell people like set the record straight or something.
Right.
She's more just like, well, you're going to believe what you're going to believe,
Yeah. And nothing I can do about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's so frustrating for just to be misunderstood, I guess,
Yeah. Misunderstood. And yeah, I feel like there's another way to describe that. Like this sort of almost like secret relationship that she had with her mother. And just how much of that is completely unknown to the rest of her family at large.
Right.
And the part that it hurt to read was her describing this relationship and kind of her regrets that go along with it. The line, "She never asked for forgiveness, so I never offered it." That hurt, and all that hurt to read, because it's like, it makes me think like it's so easy to either hold a grudge or think that you've wronged somebody. And to think that either you need to ask for forgiveness or offer forgiveness, and you just never do.
Yeah.
It's just this line, this baggage between two people, and it just remains unresolved.
Right.
In perpetuity.
Yeah.
Like that was a very painful line for me to read.
And not to jump to the end, but the fact that it's like, okay, she finally in the end has to come to the acceptance that she can't change, what happened or didn't happen, but all she can do is learn from it for the future.
Right.
Yeah. I think that is like, for me, that's like the biggest lesson here.
Yeah.
Is that, yes, for that opportunity, you cannot go back in the past and change that. although I don't think that all is lost, because I definitely believe that her mom knew that she loved her.
Yeah.
For sure, because of how much that she was there for her. But even whenever you feel like all is lost, all you can do is take that and learn something from it and apply it to the future, rather than continue just like grieving what you lost, you know, because then you might lose more.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So to kind of harken on some comments that Kim left, she wrote this quite a while ago and rewrote it for this episode because of the sound effects. She's like, that's exactly what it called up for me, was this story. And so she decided to sit down and rewrite it. I remember at the time she was kind of processing this memory. Like we were just talking about this memory. And as she's going through events and she's talking about it, I told her, I was like, you really should write that story and just write it down.
Yeah.
And she did. And she's hung on to it. And the more I think about it, the more thankful I am that it ever even occurred to me to put this down into this format and this page, like put it down into words and like make it permanent, make it exist somewhere outside of your memory.
Right.
And going through it now, this is a heartbreaking story. It made me cry. I legit cried for this.
Yeah.
Like this is hard to read. And the first time I read it, it was the same way. But it just shows such humanity in this story. And it shows these different sides of grief and the way that these people go through this type of grief. And it really dives in, obviously, into Kim's specific grief here.
Yes.
And I think we all can learn these lessons. So I think it's wonderful that you can share this.
Yes.
And help the rest of us learn what it is to grieve.
Yeah.
And what it could be like. And your mileage may vary, obviously. Everybody's different.
Right.
And this, I think, goes to great lengths to point out just how different people react.
Oh, yeah.
To this kind of grief and this loss.
Right. So definitely helpful to all of us readers, but I dare say helpful to her as well. You know, to get that out on paper.
Yeah. And I just don't want to speak on her behalf, but yeah, I would like to think that this had some sort of cathartic effect. Like it helps resolve these emotions. And I'll be honest, since she wrote this story, this hasn't come up since then. So maybe it is a good way of processing it. I certainly think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And like journaling is a great way to process even just your day-to-day life.
Totally.
So I think this is a great way to process these kind of emotions.
Well, because to me, it's kind of like shedding light on something that's like lurking in the darkness, and like putting a somehow awareness on it. Somehow it's like me and Kim used to be roommates, and there was this guy that I had like what is it called? One of your sleeping night terrors.
Oh, like sleep paralysis?
No, nightmares, but where my eyes were open and I was looking around.
Yeah, I think that's sleep paralysis.
Oh, really? I thought sleep paralysis was where you couldn't move and you were awake and conscious.
Well, your eyes are open and you're
Well, whatever it's called.
Anyway,
and so and there was this really tall guy, like 10 feet tall, that showed up.
Not a real guy.
Well, he seemed pretty real to me.
Okay, fair.
And my eyes were open. I was looking at him, and he showed up twice, and both times the first time I grabbed my cat and ran to Kim's room and woke her up. No, I didn't wake her up. I just stood there, and then I woke up as I was standing there holding my cat. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go back to bed now. But then the second time, I saw him and I was screaming for Kim. I was like, Kim! Ah! Kim! It was like 3:00 in the morning. And she's like, what? I heard her from down the hall. Anyway, and then she came very begrudgingly. And I was like, as soon as she walked in, I woke up. And I was like, oh, never mind.
Wait, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Anyway, and then we were talking about that, and Kim was like, well, let's give him a name so that he's not so scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, what was his name?
Clifford.
Clifford. I was going to say Clyde.
No, I mean, close. Clifford. But anyway, so we named him Clifford. And after that, I didn't have any more nightmares about Clifford because we made fun of him.
Yeah, you just cast light on it.
Oh, yeah. We cast light on it. And so I feel like it's the same way, like writing down your like trauma and thoughts. And I'm preaching to myself right now because I need to do this too.
Right. Same.
But like getting it out into the open, I feel like is so, so helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree. Who was it that, was it Hemingway that said the best way to get over someone is to write them into a story? Is to turn them into literature, I think is maybe his exact words. I want to say that was Hemingway.
Nice.
But it just has this sort of demystifying effect.
Mm-hmm.
Like you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this whole process. Like I feel like it's a process of not just writing it, but also reading what it is that you wrote.
Right, totally.
Like being an observer to your own work.
I feel like it's that, and also having other people observe it.
Oh yeah,
helps a lot.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, like, that's exactly right. Yeah, you kind of need to share it.
Yeah, exactly, because then it gets out of you, and it's like kind of sharing the burden a bit. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna run through just a few of my notes here.
Mm-hmm.
This line: everyone has someone to hold them. I continue to stand there, surrounded and alone. Mm-hmm. My note says, "This is such a scene." For one, just from a writerly perspective, this paints such a scene because of everything that we've had around it. Mm-hmm. All these relatives, all this heartbreak, this grief. That was it the aunt that was shouting at her? Mm-hmm. Just grandmother. Is her grandmother was shouting at her? Why did you do this? Like. Well, first of all, what a terrible thing to say. Mm-hmm. But just that everyone has someone to hold them. I continue to stand there surrounded and alone.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And a little further down, the sobs of others slowly fade out. I don't really hear them anymore, but they're here. The lack of mine makes that ever so evident. Mm-hmm. That is such a great line. Again, from a writerly perspective, we're cluing into the scene around us, but also her reaction to this scene. And that's kind of a through line throughout. Like we very clearly paint this scene, and then we very briefly get the reaction or the emotionality of our point of view character here.
Right.
I just think it's so effective at what it's trying to do, and it's so succinct whenever it does that. Another line that I was very moved by: few times in life do you realize you're at a turning point. I don't know it, but that's where I am now.
Yeah.
I wanted to call that out again, kind of from a writer's perspective. I like this because the story is told in present tense. And when you're telling a story that has happened in the present tense, it can have this sort of wishy-washy feel to it. Like it's not what we normally read a story in. It's usually in the past tense. So I like this because it roots us even further in the present tense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does a great job of reinforcing the tense that we're in. And second of all, it's exactly true. Yeah. When you're at those moments that you're at a turning point.
You don't realize it.
Yeah, you don't know it.
Exactly. I was actually thinking about that. Like, that one was really enlightening for me, just thinking about it, because I was thinking that is so true. You know, you don't know it until hindsight that you're at this crossroads, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The direction of your life is changing. You don't know that.
No.
But it is changing. Yeah. Again, how am I doing? Do I need anything else? Yes. I need you to leave me alone because I don't know you. I need to figure out if there's any confirmation that my mother knew I loved her. Again, painting the scene and reinforcing this grief and the way that this type of grief that she's going through at this time. Very well done.
And I guess I just really liked the way that it was just talking about several times, like repeating the theme, like, I need to know this thing. Like,
Mhm.
I need to know this.
Yeah.
And then finally having to let go of that and just
Yeah.
be like, I can't know this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The way it recurs, how often it recurs, the moments, the specific moments that it recurs, it works exactly. It works exactly right for the reader.
Right.
And B, that sounds exactly like how grief works. It's always there. It's always nagging. It's always gnawing at you. At even times whenever somebody's asking, "Are you okay?" Like that's whenever it's gonna like flare up. It's like, no, I need you to stop.
Yeah.
Like that's making it worse.
She's just desperate for this like reassurance.
Yeah.
I almost want to say though, like, even though she couldn't get it in the way that she wanted it at that time, I feel like there's a possibility that she can, or maybe has gotten it on some level, or can get it in the future, but on different terms.
Yeah.
Like, not in the way of absolution of what she wanted, you know?
Yeah, it's an answer that will come from within, not from
Right.
without.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have a few other notes here. I'm just going to leave it at the last line. Like, what a perfect way to cap this story. Like the whole message, the grief. I need to know that she knew I loved her. I need to know that she knew I loved her. And now the message is people need to know they're loved.
Yeah.
I know that now. Oh, that hurt. That hurt. That made me cry.
Yeah.
That was. That's a gut punch.
It is,
in just the right way.
Yeah, but at the same time, it left me with like a triumphant feeling.
Yes,
like,
and that's why I think it's so effective.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is tragic, but I have to accept that, and I have to do what I can with it.
And
from here.
And look at what I know now.
Right. Exactly.
And what positivity is going to come out of this experience because of what I now know.
Exactly.
Beautiful story.
So beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mexikim.
Thank you, Mexikim. We love you.
We do love you. So up next, we have, I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce this, Mahansani.
Mahansani.
By Steve Living Room. Steve
in the house.
And in full form.
Yes. Full on.
Full on Steve.
Full on Steve. So, wow. Okay. So you know what? I really liked this for the biographical aspect.
Yeah.
Like, assuming that this is true, which it seems very much like it's taken from your actual life.
Yeah.
I am impressed, Steve, with your wife's resilience.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Like, after reading that, lost her husband and 2 children to a plane crash. Wow.
Yes. I highlighted that and said, oh, like that's quite the glimpse into Denise's life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and to get back out there.
Right.
And try again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely wow.
That's amazing. I mean, honestly, the whole time I was reading it, I was just like, wow, Denise must be some type of like a sage, having gone through something like that. I mean, you're gaining like hundreds of years worth of wisdom. You know, like that's legit.
That's next level trauma
to
overcome.
Yeah. And the fact that she overcame it.
Yes.
I mean, that is, wow, that is inspirational.
Yes. Mad props to Denise and to Steve.
Yeah.
Because like it's all about your support, like who you've got around you, and to it is both tragic and delightfully cute and adorable. Like to have that kind of glimpse into Denise's life, and then to end on just such romanticism and hopeful and just loveliness and cuteness. It reeks of just genuine love. Like this is just lovely in the most literal way I can possibly say.
Yeah, and I also like the way that it's not like this kind of like delusional, I can't think of words right now, but this like too perfect to be true kind of love, because it says we've been there for each other through all these challenges and difficulty and fun times and hard times, and I don't know, but it's just stuff that says that their relationship isn't like perfect. It's not like always a walk in the park, like they have a lot of ups and downs, but that I really like that because that makes it realistic and makes it, like I feel like in our society, which romanticizes everything, it's like, oh, everything has to be perfect or else like throw the baby out with the bathwater,
Right. Yeah.
But this is like, no, we've been through some shit, but that makes it even stronger.
Yeah, and just the kind of down to earth nature, especially this paragraph was just lovely. We still hold hands. We play board games together, laugh, and support each other fully. Denise has made me a better person, lover, and teacher. She has shown me how precious life is, to never take things for granted, and to stop and smell the roses, literally and figuratively. I completely accept and respect her continued love and dedication to her boys she lost, and support her in her new career as an art therapist and life coach. It's just so grounded, so down to earth, and just shows the genuine love and support and how they're there for each other. And it's lovely. It's very realistic in that.
It is. I feel like it's inspirational for two reasons. Like, first of all, what Matt was just saying, like about the relationship and how real and beautiful it is. Okay. Secondly, well, like we already said, the inspiration of Denise being able to come through something like that and still live a meaningful life, and flourish on some level.
Yes. And to just the act of getting out there and trying again. Like that's that amazing. Alone is notable.
Yeah.
And then to take it to this degree, to find this relationship and build it into something as special as what it clearly is, it's genuinely very inspirational. We can all aspire to be like Steve and Denise here.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and Kim and I absolutely do play board games together.
Oh, do they?
Do we?
Do they ever?
Board games are our love language.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's true. From my perspective, it's true.
Yeah. And then in the last paragraph, Denise is my Mahansani, which is Lakota for the other part of me. That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's absolutely lovely. First of all, I have no idea what Lakota is.
It's a tribe.
Okay.
A Native American tribe?
I had no idea. Never heard of it.
Oh,
never heard of her.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of many Native American tribes, but Lakota has never crossed me.
Yeah, Lakota.
Right on.
I mean, I know that it's north of us, but I kind of thought it was like in the Northwest. The tribe originally, or maybe now still now, I guess. But like Oregon area, Washington area.
Ah, okay.
That's kind of where I thought they were, but I'm not positive about that.
I have no idea, but it's a lovely touch, and for that to be the title I think it's perfect. You work that into the narrative. Yeah, it's perfect, just as it says.
Yes. Oh, North Dakota and South Dakota.
Oh, the Dakotas then.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so you're right there.
Yeah. And actually they are a type of Sioux.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I didn't know that.
Or well, that makes perfect sense. Lakota, Dakotas.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's right there.
But there's the Dakota tribe too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But and they're also a Sioux.
I don't know. Probably.
I don't know. That would make sense.
Yeah. Linguistically, it would.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, beautiful story. And lovely. I do like our Happy Valentine's Day greeting.
Yes.
You know what, Steve? I like your optimistic. What I see from you is something that I think I see from you because it's something that I have too, which is kind of like this childlike optimism. And I really like that. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
It's like being able to go through so much shit and you're not unscathed, but to still be able to like be resilient and keep returning with this optimistic viewpoint, you know?
Yeah. The optimism is no worse for wear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I see that in you because I'm like that. I could be wrong because I don't know you, but
You can be like that.
yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't say you're always that way.
I did say I was always like that.
Yeah. Well, excellent job, Steve. Thank you. And thank you again for prodding everybody else to get their stories into us.
Yes, thank you. Lovely. Okay, who we got up next?
It's the Prismatics.
With the darkening. Not the dark. With darkening.
Darkening. Yes.
So, this right here is a continuation of the last story.
It is. Yeah.
So, all right. So, we show up to Bradley with his scuba gear.
Uh-huh.
Getting in there into that lake to try to find out what happened to his wife.
Yes.
And this is how much later? A year? Oh no.
I think it's
over the past few years since Amber died.
Yeah. I kind of imagine that the previous story was him recalling what happened to Amber.
Oh yeah.
So I think the previous story was him showing up.
Mm-hmm. It was a flashback
To do what we read here.
Yeah. So he is going in there to find out what killed his wife. Okay. Something interesting here, which I see that Matt highlighted as well. Bradley had romanticized about her death, mainly to make himself feel better about it. To not do so would be accepting the fact that death is terrifying and could happen at any time. I wonder what that means.
Yeah. What do you mean when you say that he romanticized her death?
Yeah. Was it like that he's like, oh yeah, death is awesome. Yay.
I took that for kind of and this is a bad way to say this, but the kind of classical definition of romantic or like the romantic period is all about like the individual and kind of this return to nature. Like I think of like romantic music and romantic art from the romantic era, again, heavy air quotes. And it's all about like the individual.
Are you talking like kurasui?
Let's say yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's all kind of like the romantic era is all about the individual. So that's kind of what I took from it, but it's not clear that that's the way I should take that, I guess. And so it kind of seemed like it was Bradley romanticized about her death, kind of thinking like he's going back to himself as an individual, as a single person. So that's kind of the way I took it, but that's the best that I could
interesting.
come up with. That's my best guess.
All right. Well, so yeah, that sounds like kurasui, which is a Latin term for after the Roman Republic fell and the rise of the empire, and men were no longer allowed to participate in government, or like the rich man was no longer part of the republic. It was the emperor was the boss. They didn't have any power. They were emasculated.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they also were not participating in military because that was all getting like hired out to mercenaries.
Okay.
And so men were losing their masculine identity. And so they turned their focus onto themselves and onto developing themselves.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
care of self. And so it was all about like self-improvement, you know? Yeah.
Okay.
Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the way that I read this though, romanticizing her death, to me, that was just being like, I almost saw this in like a gothic, like grunge type of way. Like how we like in the 90s, we were like, yeah, I'm going to die before I'm 30. It's going to be so bad. It's going to be so metal, you know?
Okay.
Like just kind of romanticizing the idea of dying.
Interesting.
That's kind of how I saw it, but I wasn't really sure how to read that. As though it was like It was being like, it was beautiful, like it was poetry. It was like a love story, like a Romeo and Juliet type of thing.
Yeah, tragic but romantic.
Yeah, or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know
Mm-hmm.
I guess the prismatic's intent behind that sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very curious to know.
But this is a fairly short continuation here
Mm-hmm.
for this. We come to face this creature, this
Mm-hmm.
entity
Mm-hmm.
that's in this lake.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds to me very like Lovecraftian, monster, eldritch, evil, And we get this line, second to last paragraph at the end. It is incubating. It is sleeping. Don't wake it until you can blot out the sun.
Yeah.
Very Lovecraftian and very just otherworldly, monstrous, evil. Like there's no standing up to something like this.
Mm-hmm.
There's only like either stopping it before it becomes a real thing or succumbing to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a very terrifying way to leave us.
Yeah.
Well,
what caught my attention even more than that was the last paragraph where I'm like, okay, near him, another slumbering vessel lay dormant, but busy. Soon it would birth a new world for these humans. I think that's Amber. I think that this creature has knocked her up.
Especially considering that's very interesting, especially considering the imagery that we get when we get the eye of the monster when he's underwater, and it was still smiling that lusty grin from their final afternoon, the reflection of amber in the eye of this monster.
Yeah.
And I love that sentence. It was still smiling that lusty grin from their final afternoon. Ooh, the
That's
pronoun is doing some heavy lifting right there. It is. It's just so unsettling.
It is.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking of Amber, but then when it says it's like, oh, it's not Amber anymore.
Ooh, yikes.
And now if that is Amber there at the end, which I don't know, then now she's just a vessel.
See, I was... yeah, interesting. The way I read the very end was it was basically in reference to the monster in the lake, and that was the slumbering vessel. It's incubating, it's sleeping. Don't wake it. And so the vessel lay dormant. But your read is equally interesting.
And you know what it's reminiscent of, if my read is correct, which I have no idea if it is? It's reminiscent of Persephone.
Interesting.
So Persephone, the daughter of Ceres, getting dragged down to the underworld to become the bride of Hades.
Yeah.
And getting obviously impregnated, and then only being able to come up for half the year.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it just like really strikes me as that, because it's like, if that is Amber, it's like she was dragged down by this monster. Yeah. And impregnated. And then she comes up, surfaces for a while. I don't know.
To give birth to a new world for these humans.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh man, that reminded me. We had a story about Persephone.
Yeah, we did. I remember that.
That was Richie's story, I want to say. Oh yeah. I was trying to tie it back to something that we had already read, but it's not Prismatic story. I'm fairly certain that was Richie's story, but that's fascinating. I like that tie. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I want to call out the line. The rest of the eye had glossy yellow bands like the film on the walls of a smoker's house. Ew. Oh, that was so gross, but
gross.
That's exactly that paints such a picture.
Sick. Honestly, I haven't spent barely any time in the house of a smoker who smokes inside. So I don't even know what that looks like, but I can only imagine.
I have. It's because I have customers who smoke in their house, and so you go in, it's just, it's so gross.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rich people?
They'll limit it to one room.
Ew.
But naturally, there's a TV in there, so
Sick.
it's gross.
Ugh. Can you take a picture next time? A video?
I am not in the field anymore, so I don't
Oh,
go
can you
into
get
these
one of your
homes anymore.
coworkers to do that?
Surreptitiously take a picture for me, please.
Yeah, or a little vid. I'd like to see that, but not experience. I just want to see it.
Mainly, it's not as much the look of it. Like there is a like tinge smell. Oh, you
Ugh.
smell it. It's this sort of
Ugh.
sour smell almost.
Ugh.
It's horrible. But yeah, excellent line, excellent description there. What else you got?
It was a great read.
This was a great read.
Yeah.
I continue to want to just know more.
Yeah, same.
We have so much backstory to this that, like, I'm just fascinated by it. Yeah.
I want more continuation.
Yes.
Very enjoyable.
Hey, thanks, Prismatics.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Life Becomes Her by Richie Posher.
Yeah.
I love that name. Life Becomes Her.
Oh, yeah.
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 I really like that.
Oh, yeah, it is a good title.
Man, this one's cray-cray.
This one is crazy. There's a lot going on here.
There is. I had a little bit of a hard time following, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of did too. I think that was more my ability to focus
Same.
than it was the quality of the writing.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
But yeah, I think because so much is happening, like we're moving through so many elements of this story. We're getting so much exposition for the events of this that it is a little tricky to follow. But I kept there.
Yeah, and it just reminded me of like one of those books that you start out in the middle, media res, and you're just like, where am I? But then you slowly figure it out. So apparently an apocalypse has occurred, an apocalyptic event.
Centered around a virus?
Or was it a nuclear?
You see, that I wasn't sure, because we get this, like she's willingly injected with this virus, like they're looking for a cure. So I was thinking like it was a viral thing. But then the caretaker shows up and they're burned. Horribly burned.
But did you read Richie's comments?
Oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah, because it was about his like fear. The thing that scares him the most is in like a nuclear fallout or something.
Yeah.
And so
I'm just gonna pull that up.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I had never that's scary to me, but it's never been like something I fixated on. But well, maybe I should, because this description is pretty terrifying.
Yes. Yeah, the description of how the caretaker looks is, it's very hard to stomach that. Yeah. As a matter of fact, what it made me think of is the game Fallout. There are creatures in there called ghouls, and the description of it is like their like skin is like running and melted, like no lips, just bared teeth, like horrible looking things.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the picture that I got.
But I really like also the description of the caretaker's like personality. I mean, it's not a description of her personality. It's just what I gleaned from her dialogue or whatever, you know? It's like, wow, even though she looks terrifying, she's actually pretty chill. Well, yeah, and she's doing what we assume something to help Lucy,
or help Lucy help the world.
Right.
Because again, I felt like there was some sort of like epidemic or pandemic going on. And so they were looking for people who could withstand this virus. Right. And so she willingly took this virus upon herself. Lucy did. And so it's a fascinating story. Yeah, Richie says, I don't get scared by much, but nuclear destruction is like one of the things that really messes with me. Yeah, that's a valid fear. I would not even call that irrational. That's a perfectly rational fear to maintain.
Yeah. I wouldn't even call that a phobia.
I would just,
in the modern sense of the word.
What's The difference between the antiquated sense and the modern sense.
Well, phobos means fear.
Okay, so it is just a fear. Okay.
Yeah, but phobia, we associate that with like a irrational fear
Or like
these days.
Yeah, it
Like
does must a phobia be irrational by the modern sense?
I don't know, but I feel like that's how it's used, like agoraphobia, fear of like crowds.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why? That doesn't make sense. The way that we use it, I just feel like is like a fear that doesn't really make sense, you know?
Yeah. Oh man. Part of prismatic story. Have you ever heard of thalassophobia?
Fear of the sea?
Yeah, or deep, large bodies
Fear
of water.
Of the deep.
Yeah.
Probably, but I know thalassa because that's Greek.
That's one of my favorite subreddits.
Mm-hmm.
Is the thalassophobia subreddit.
What?
Like you can see some wild deep sea things in there, and they're all just like, oh god.
Oh, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Okay.
But yeah, since we're talking about phobias, it just made me think of it. But yeah, I would still call that a phobia, like fear of like nuclear fallout or fear of a bomb. I mean, like you could consider that irrational to a degree because it's not.
We hope, but don't say that. Knock on wood.
Yes.
It's like an unreasonable fear based on the risk level. I feel like it's an unreasonable emotional reaction compared with the risk level of it happening.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, so one thing that I really liked about this story was the description of Lucy and what she was going through in her drug-induced state.
Uh-huh.
I really, really related with that, having been in a drug-induced state a lot. But especially what I was thinking of was one like in the hospital.
Yes.
Where you're like on morphine, you're unconscious, something happened, and you're just like, felt relaxed. She felt relief as the morphine was connected to her IV. Okay, so I want to say that I really did definitely relate to that morphine feeling.
Yes. Yeah, that the sensation of it hitting the bloodstream and hitting your head. Yeah.
And feeling the warmth spread over your body. Yeah. Wow, that made me want a morphine pump immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made me want to like, be one of those people who, pretends like they're hurt just so they can go to the hospital and get drugs. A drug seeker.
Yeah.
I'm not that person, but it made me want to be that person.
Just to get some morphine.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that the way you describe the morphine and the warmth and way it spreads, her heart steadied and fell into a rhythm that felt almost normal.
Oh yeah, and the blood pumping in her ears loudly, but it was soothing. Yes. Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and then we get this I'll just call it a monologue from the caretaker. Did we ever get the caretaker's name?
Yeah, we did. It's
Angela?
Yeah, Angela.
Angela, yes. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just this one-sided conversation like, do you remember me? Can you talk to me? Please don't be frightened. I'm going to get a mask to cover up. So one part that actually kind of threw me off, I almost called it a red herring, was whenever they peel off the mask and toss it lazily on a pile of papers. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, it's like, don't do that. Because in my head, it was like, I'm thinking that this is like some viral epidemic or whatever, and then they just give up.
Be susceptible.
And so whenever they did that, my note says, no, don't do that. That sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because whenever I read that line, I just took it to mean that Angela didn't feel a threat at that moment. And she's like, phew, I can take off this stupid mask, All
right, interesting. Yeah.
But then when she's like, I'll get a mask to cover up, I assume she means something like that mask right there, that masquerade mask.
Something more decorative.
Yeah. Or like a Phantom of the Opera type of mask.
Yeah, so more for the visual element than the protective
exactly.
element.
Exactly.
Yeah, because she mentions, I know I'm hard to look at right now.
Yeah.
And the way Angela kind of describes herself is obviously she knows, like, I'm not going to make it through this, whatever this is. But it does seem to be them searching for some sort of cure or someone who can withstand this virus, because Lucy willingly went in and got inoculated with a virus.
Yeah.
To basically knowing that everyone who has tried this has died from it.
Yeah.
So,
Angela is my favorite character in this story.
she's a good one.
She seems very cool and like such a badass and such a like martyr kind of. She's just like, hey, I'm fucked, but I'm going to help you. Don't worry. Like, I'm going to get you through this. She just seems so selfless.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Uncommonly selfless.
Yeah. I just really, really like her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I completely agree. Especially once because we kind of get her feelings about the situation, I guess, pretty early on. Like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to do everything that I can. And it's not until later that we get the description of how she looks. And so it just further like endears us towards her mission. Like, even in this state, like, you'd be perfectly acceptable to just be selfish and just survive.
Right.
But no, going out of her way to try and aid the situation here, and at the same time aid Lucy, who sounds to be kind of like the one. Yeah. The cure kind of
Patient
thing.
Zero.
Patient Zero is like
the first one that started the thing.
That started the thing.
What is the first one that is the antidote?
I don't know. I just think of Children of Men. Like, they're trying to save. Have you seen Children of Men?
I don't remember.
Oh, it's a hell of a thing.
Ooh.
I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite movies.
I like that phrase. It's a hell of a thing. That's funny.
It's famous. Is famous for having one of the longest scenes without a cut. And there's just whenever you know. Whenever that scene starts, like, going into the movie, and it's like, okay, the scene is beginning. Yeah. And you realize how long they're filming with how many people and how many effects and how much is happening. Yeah. And how long this just goes on and on and on. It's insanely, it's insanely impressive.
See, when you said one of the longest scenes without a cut, I was like, I thought you meant like a slash. And I was just like...
Sorry, industry term, cut.
Oh, sorry, I don't know the lingo.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
But anyways, yeah.
Cool.
Well, hey, thank you, Richie.
Thank you, Richie.
Lovely story.
Yeah, very interesting read.
Absolutely, yeah. It seems like it has places to go.
It does. It does. Give us more.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
And next up, we've got...
Beat and Flow by Ace of Sword. So, this is also a continuation from one story was submitted to us, and then the first story was submitted to Do the Right Thing. But this is sort of the mob boss superhero crime family. Yeah. So that's this world here, and this appears to be more or less picking up exactly where we left off. We had the death of Matt, and the family is kind of just collecting its collective wits, I guess. And we are introduced to some characters and basically kind of getting to know them and their roles and or their abilities. So that's basically kind of what we're laying out here. So first off, we have Arthur. Who's our point of view character here? Is it Arthur?
I think it's Arthur, yeah.
Yeah. So, the guy has like 1 million hearts?
Something like that.
He has at least 2 hearts.
Several.
At least 3 hearts. Because his secondary hearts were plural, but he has primary heart. So anyways, he uses this ability to get Mary to the island through some sort of magic in addition to the abilities that they already have.
Right.
Yeah.
A blood ritual.
Blood magic.
Yes.
And if we know anything from Game of Thrones, that's evil.
That's evil and it's
Shit's
strong.
Evil. Yeah.
It's known as blagic in some circles.
Yeah. I don't hang out in those circles, but they do
yes,
call
you
it
do.
That.
You just don't realize it.
Oh, no.
Yep. Okay, so Yeah, and I do really, really like the description of the mother's grief.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very, very good way to put it.
Yes, and that's something that's carried through every single entry, including back to the original story that wasn't submitted to us, is this mother's grief.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a through line for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we still don't know much about Mom. She sounds like a badass.
I was gonna
Like
say
she's
she's
gonna
like a
come in,
bad bitch.
she go come in and wreck shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what I feel like we're slowly gearing up to her reveal, like
Mm-hmm.
her coming onto the scene or doing something. But if for the moment we're left with Mary, Arthur, and what is his name? Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Brian is kind of a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian shows up as just an eye off to the side, I think. The eye blinked in acknowledgement and implied permission. Was that
Yeah.
Brian?
Well, I was confused about the eye. I was like, what is the name of the child that died?
Matt.
Matt. Okay. For some reason, at first I was like, oh, is Matt still somehow. I was, what I realized, what I was kind of like thinking in the back of my mind subconsciously was that fucking book that we read in book club that I thought was so ridiculous about the monster in the floorboards or in the wall who was slowly collecting energy and becoming put together again. Remember?
It clearly had a huge impact on me.
He was gradually, and at first he was just like an eye, like, and then
because the movie Hellraiser is based
yes,
on it.
It is
It's
Hellraiser.
Hellbound Heart.
Hellbound Heart.
That's the
it.
book.
That's
yeah.
it. Yes. For some reason, I had this idea because I didn't know the name of the child that had died in this story, and I had the idea that it was what's his name in here? Who am I talking about? Brian. That it was Brian, and that he was in Hellbound Heart, and he was just like this
slowly
like re-embodying, recorporealing, and he was just like an eye that just was like kind of blink sometimes at this point.
Yeah.
In a crevice of a rock.
Yeah.
Or something. I had that picture.
It does paint an image. It is confusing.
Yeah.
But it is the way it's written, the eye can't be anybody other than Brian.
Okay.
So, or at least that's the way I took it. Yeah. He raised an eyebrow, then looked around until he spotted an eye nestled in a crack between the rocks. Mm-hmm. Wordlessly, he showed Brian the screen with the message and symbol. The eye blinked in acknowledgement and implied permission.
So Brian is kind of like feral.
Yeah, I'm going to assume Brian is not vocal.
Right.
To some degree. And that's kind of reinforced later because all we get are like text messages from Brian, kind of following along in the conversation from his crack in the rock.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's just a very eccentric collection of characters that we have here. And and we're just getting a little bit more information about how Matt died, laser weaponry fried his brain. He never got the hang of Brian's decentralized nervous system trick, Arthur sighed. So little tidbits of information, Brian's decentralized nervous system trick. And I feel like we've read more about Brian. I'm just kind of failing to remember it.
Yeah.
But that decentralized nervous system thing kind of struck me as familiar, and I can't quite place it. But yeah, we're just getting more information about the events that led up to them being here and just about them and their abilities at this point.
Right.
So Mary and Arthur kind of seem like ringleaders underneath Mom.
Yeah.
Who reigns supreme.
Right.
As the matriarch of the family here. So.
What a badass.
Yeah. This kind of gives me. Did you ever see Succession?
Yes.
it kind of gives me the vibes of Succession
Mhm.
plus superheroes and magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of mileage that you can get out of this just from those aspects alone.
Yeah.
And just the dynamic that you have between these family members
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that they are out for blood. I
Yeah.
think literally out for blood.
Yeah, and interestingly, I found it interesting at the end where it was like, doesn't really narrow things down much though. A random vigilante with hyperintelligence can figure out ways to make enough money to finance their crusade against crime, Arthur pointed out. But that leaves traces that can be followed, Mary said, Brian already looking. That makes me think that these are the bad guys.
Yeah.
The crime family.
Crime family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the wrong side
Right.
of this conflict, it sounds like.
Yeah, unless it's some type of, well, I was gonna say vigilante justice, but no, they're saying that about the other side.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
So maybe the vigilante justice that was doled out was doled out upon Matt's unwitting head.
Right.
And so now we're kind of getting the aftermath of vigilante justice and the bad guy's side
Right.
of the events that follow that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, man. Yeah, and it's interesting, and it's clear that you're putting a lot of thought into the kind of the mechanics of how they operate and kind of the unique personalities of each one of these family members here. This story has legs. It wants to just run off the page. I feel
it's like a anti-hero story.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll be curious to see, because they're just such a interesting group of people, like the kind of dynamic that they have, especially moving forward, like how they deal with certain situations, how they deal with disagreement with one another, and conversely, how they deal with when they all are in agreement. Like, there's just so many ways that you can put this group of people into situations and just see what happens. Like that's so cool. That's so cool. And
it
again,
is.
Brian strikes me like a straight up wild card.
I like Brian.
He's very reticent. Yeah. Awesome story. Thanks, Ace of Sword.
Thanks, Ace. So next up, we've got Olivia's Treehouse by Walker by Faith.
Hey, Walker.
Hey, Walker.
So, what'd you think of this?
So, glad you asked.
Yeah.
Yes, because first of all, I very much related to this. And similarly to what I mentioned about Richie's story, this drug-induced haze is something I can very, very much relate to where you're just like, you don't know what's real or what's not. You don't know where you are. You think you're communicating, but maybe you are, maybe you aren't. You're in and out of consciousness. I feel this so hard. And I feel like it's very well described.
Agreed.
And it makes me think, oh, hey, Walker, we've both been in this situation. Because you described it so well, I feel like it could only be described that way by somebody who's experienced it.
Yeah. It certainly strikes me like Walker has an idea of what it's like to come out of unconsciousness in a hospital.
Oh, yes.
And so I just want to give you some mad props. It's always clear when we're not in the present by simple italices.
That's true.
Whenever you put us in italics, it doesn't detract from my reading of it, but it also adds to the clarity of it.
Yeah,
so just from a formatting perspective, you nailed it.
Nailed it.
That worked perfect.
That's true. I really liked that.
Because that's a real easy pitfall in this scenario, to be writing something and then say, oh, no, we weren't actually conscious. And then whenever we do come to the point, whenever she wakes up, that we're like, okay, they're still just hallucinating. And so you very effectively avoid that pitfall of dream versus reality, and making it clear to the
Yes.
reader that when reality is on the page in front of us. So
Exactly.
very, very well done.
Very well done. Yeah, and yes, the sensation of coming back to consciousness in an unfamiliar setting in a hospital, you really, really described that well. It's, as somebody who's experienced it several times, you described it quite well.
Yes, I agree. And I just wanted to read Walker's comment here. So this is from a novel that they're writing.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically rewrote it for the sake of this sound effect prompt, which is awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I just kind of want to give the rundown of their synopsis for scenes 1 and 2, which I assume we're in scene 3. Scenes 1 and 2 are essentially a family reunion over the death of the patriarch. The matriarch is pissed. Olivia, Suzanne, and Robert are siblings and adults. During this, Olivia goes up to their childhood treehouse and finds where the wild things are, with her father's handprint in the dust. Then the treehouse is struck by lightning, and boom, we're caught up. So what a synopsis.
Yeah.
I do think I want to read scenes 1 and 2.
Me too.
Yeah, that all sounds like very great content, like very great context for what this story is showing us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested to know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Because this one is so effective. I really liked this.
Me too, but I'm like, is this, because she's been in a coma for 2 weeks. Is this 2 weeks?
Or 3 weeks?
Or whatever.
Whatever.
Is this 2 weeks after the treehouse got struck by lightning? Or because she's married now or got a boyfriend?
Yeah.
So, but I'm imagining when the treehouse thing happened, she was a kid. So is it just that she's having like a flashback or like kind of a weird time continuum situation in her mind? Like, why was she in a coma?
I think the coma is caused by the lightning strike. Because they're at a family reunion over the death of the patriarch, and he specifically describes it as Olivia goes up to their childhood treehouse and finds where the wild things are in her father's handprint in the dust. So this is well after the fact.
Okay, wait. So the dad doesn't die in the lightning strike.
Right. Olivia, we assume, is in the treehouse, finds the book.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking like that event happened at the same time that the dad died and Olivia got in the coma. But no, that makes more sense. If the dad dying happened way before, for some other reason. Yeah,
and honestly, the context for Dad's death is obviously context that would be interesting to know. But all that to say, what did you think of the onomatopoeia that is repeated throughout? How did that work for you?
Well, I felt like a dumbass at first because I was like literally reading it to myself, and I was like, boom, 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 boom. And then I remember the prompt, and I was like, oh, ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. I thought it was good.
Okay.
I mean,
was it effective?
Well, okay. So to me, here's how it struck me. No pun intended. Okay.
Lightning joke.
So right. It struck me as theatrical, as in, in theater how they like exaggerate things, but that's a stylistic choice to be very much exaggerating like dialogue and facial expressions and things like that.
Almost hyperbolic.
Yes, it seemed hyperbolic to me, but like a style choice.
Yeah.
So to me, it didn't seem, I don't know. It just seemed like a form of literature.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll agree. Stylistically, it is unique and hyperbolic, I think is a great way to describe it. The persistence of it, the way it's constantly recurring throughout, I think it was actually quite effective. I like that it's never like this. It's not just like a copy paste from the previous entry. Like it has formatting differences between each time it shows up. So it's never something that you can entirely expect, but it's just always there. It's always in the background, and I think that it was actually quite effective. And it does eventually go away after she wakes up. And then that's whenever it stops. That gives us another kind of clear delineation between, dreaming and awake, is this absence of this heartbeat sound, which began in the original as a metronome, which I would be curious to know the metronome's significance. But anyways, I found that part actually quite effective. I liked that, but I was curious to get your take and see if you had the same.
Yeah, I guess my take was I didn't like it or dislike it. It just seemed like a very classical type. It seemed kind of old-fashioned, like an old-fashioned literature choice or something.
Okay. Yeah.
I know I'm not using the right word, but
it strikes me kind of Poe-esque. Yeah.
Bro, stop. That's what I was about to say. Oh. Get the fuck out of my head.
Well, I mean, Telltale Heart, it's right there.
I know. I was going to say that, but I was like, no, surely that's not the right reference. But yes, it's Poe-ish. It strikes me as like 19th century poetry.
Yeah.
You know?
Poetry. These are the jokes, kids.
Ooh, these are the jokes. We got the jokes.
Did you know that I am indirectly related to Edgar Allan Poe?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wait, indirectly?
Yeah.
You mean like by marriage?
I am...
You mean you're the bastard child of Poe?
I am descended from one of his brothers?
Bro.
Or not brothers, from his uncle.
Wow.
Something like that.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, my mom found this out. Like, did this whole, 3 years of just ancestry research.
Oh, yeah.
And lo and behold.
I believe you, and I think it's wonderful.
And I believe her, and I'm going to stick by it.
Okay, guess what, though?
What? Oh, what?
I am descended from the brother of John Milton.
Oh.
That's right.
We got to touch a celebrity here.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean.
How's Paradise these days?
But
is it still lost?
No, it's regained, bitch.
Oh, okay.
You didn't read the sequel? Oh, wow. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Me and classic literature have a passing acquaintance.
Okay, well, the sequel to Paradise Lost is Paradise Regained. And guess what? Whenever I was growing up, whenever me and my brother fucked up, my dad would sometimes punish us by forcing us to read Paradise Lost.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then reporting back to him.
Give him a book report.
Yeah. Sections of it, of course. Because it's a pretty...
it's no, cover to cover. All of it right now.
It's a pretty heavy read.
Yeah.
Come to find out.
It turns out. Especially
jail.
As a child. Oh, God.
Right. I mean, believe it or not, jail.
Jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who'd have thought? But yeah, this story, Walker, it walks this line of dream and reality very well.
It does.
You really... You do give us all of the necessary details for us to really latch onto Olivia here and her pursuit of, in the first half, just wake up.
Yeah.
And also these kind of memories that you interject. And those were really effective.
Oh, yes. That was so effective.
That was very well done.
Oh, that was spot on. And Walker, I dare you to tell me that you have not been in this situation before, because the way you described it, I just know that you have.
Yeah. And don't lie to us, Walker.
Don't lie. There's no need for that. There's nothing to be gained from your falsehoods.
And no shame to be had.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, this Walker, this is really cool. I enjoyed reading this, and frankly, I want to see the rest of it.
I do too.
Like we've got 2 scenes prior to this. How do we make this happen?
Mm-hmm.
How do we make it so that we all can read these works that people are working on?
How do we facilitate that?
How do we facilitate you guys?
Yeah.
Like I actually thought about this after Novel Bember. Like if people were still gonna keep working on novels and ways that they could continue to share their progress and just some way to keep up with these longer works.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any bright ideas, I'd love to hear them. I'll entertain any ideas.
Any of them.
But yeah.
One thing about this story which annoyed me because, as mentioned, I've experienced this. Suzanne, she really bothered me because Olivia is over here fighting for her fucking life.
Fighting to just be conscious.
Trying to be conscious. And Suzanne is like, come on, like,
this is
stop.
Ridiculous.
This is ridiculous. It's like, you know what, Suzanne? Fuck you.
Yeah.
I dare you to be in this position and be able to, like, respond.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And to just so callous and and it goes on because is their brother shows up and he's like, she can hear you. Like they say that she can probably hear you. Like, can you imagine like if she heard what you just said?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes the whole situation awkward and they both just kind of get quiet.
Yes.
And so like at least we get the point, like she's put in her place. Like, don't do that. That's a terrible thing to do.
It's so messed up. And
so
I
that
guess,
was gratifying.
Yeah,
at least.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, kind of. I would like for her to like get worse consequences, but
that Schadenfreude.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Suzanne is. I'll just say it. She's a bitch.
She's a petty bitch.
Petty.
She's a basic bitch.
Yeah, it's way past time. And at first, when I first read that sentence, "Come on, Olivia, wake up! It's way past time for that. You can do this." I thought that was like encouragement, like the way a coach encourages,
right?
Like,
and maybe it was at first, but then she just got annoyed, and she was just like, "Ugh."
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I don't know why Mom wants someone here all the time. It's pointless. Yeah. I see your eyes moving, Liv. I know you're in there, so just wake up so we can all get on with our lives. That's the line.
Yes, that's the line that pissed me off.
To hell with you, Susan.
Exactly.
Suzanne.
Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
No.
She's horrible.
Exactly. And she's apparently an addict. She's just trying to go get a fix.
Was that Suzanne?
I thought it was.
Oh, that was a memory at the start.
Oh, no, you're right. That
was Olivia.
You're right. I got confused when I first read it. And I thought that was Suzanne.
Yeah.
But then I realized, wait, no, that's Olivia. Never mind.
So so this is actually a pretty big story. Like there's quite a bit that happens in here, which is kind of why we're having trouble like staying on task.
Well, yeah, because also we have no like reference.
Yeah, and I thought that was really a really effective story beat, was that memory of her husband, like we get all this, like she's trying to wake up, we get all this imagery and like textures and smells of a hospital and all of this, and then it cuts to this scene. It's like, oh, you're going to work? Like that transition from the hospital imagery to this memory of her husband leaving in the middle of the night worked very well.
Yeah.
Like that was really good in the way that it transitions you from this kind of surreal kind of just floating through the environment, and then it drops you somewhere you weren't expecting, but you were never really rooted in the first place. I just think that was really well handled. And you land us in this memory, and then we go through, it's like she realizes husband is probably cheating on her.
Can you imagine the husband in the middle of his wife being in a coma?
Well, this is a memory of Olivia's.
I know. Wait, I thought that while he was there with her, what I thought is he was there with her in the hospital, and then he went to cheat on her, but she thought she was back in her bed at home, but she wasn't really.
You see that I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I read it, but I don't know. But
I read this whole because it's all italicized this way. Uh, yeah, Olivia, oh God, you're awake. Yes, honey, I'm awake. But why are you? Why are you dressed? So it's like this dialogue back and forth between Olivia and her husband.
Yeah.
And so I thought that this is all a memory, and while he's off doing whatever or whoever,
yeah.
she goes off to get a fix.
Oh, okay. See, for some reason, I felt like it was that she was just delusional in the hospital and like partially unconscious, and he was there with her, but then he had to leave, and she thought that she was back at home in bed with him or something, and it was just like in and out of like reality and not reality. I don't know.
Which the fact that you landed on that interpretation just shows how effective the opening is at setting you into a hospital. Never at one point does it tell you you're in a hospital.
Right.
Like, it's all just sensations and textures and smells. Like, it never outright says this is where we are. It's just the sensations of being in a hospital in a coma or attempting to wake up from a coma.
It's just like what you always say, show don't tell.
Yes, and it's just so good at that. So the opening of this is, well, frankly, all of it is very well done.
Are you being frank right now?
I'm being frank. Okay. I'm not frank, but I am being frank.
Okay.
I'm
well,
Matt.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Great. Excellent. Yes, I would like to know more of the story here.
Yeah.
Because then, well, and also there at the end, it also made me think that my interpretation was what was happening, because Mom, Olivia asked, her voice breaking, turning the world multisyllabic, "Where is David?" Grace looked down at her lap, and Olivia sank back onto the bed, sobbing. So I read that as Mom knows also that David is cheating on Olivia.
Yeah, the last line I kind of left is like, I don't really know what to make of that.
Well, I didn't either, but the way that I interpreted it was that Mom also knows that David is a two-timing scoundrel.
Yeah. Well, he's also just plain not there.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah.
But why would the mom look down at her lap? You know, like if he just wasn't there, she'd be like, "Oh, he's not here, but he'll be here later."
Yeah. Oh, he's getting a soda.
Right,
yeah.
a soda.
For some reason, they're in Minnesota.
That makes sense.
But yeah, you're exactly right. That's David's a scoundrel. Sounds like.
Bro.
Walker, this is a thing, and I can clearly see you've put some time into this story, and it frankly shows. I'm being frank again. You hear that?
Yeah.
You're frank. Just know.
I heard it. I heard him.
So, thanks for bringing us scene 3.
Yeah, and I want more context. You know.
Yeah.
Have a better idea of what's going on.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Pretty please.
That's all of our stories.
That's all, y'all. Can I just tell you something really fast? My asshole students just messaged me, one of them, "Miss, there's a book report tomorrow,"
Hold on. The way you led into that. Like, can I tell you something? My asshole student. I was like, oh God.
My asshole students.
I was very worried where you were going with that.
That's funny. Okay, there's a book report tomorrow due, and they've had a month to read. Okay, 3 weeks to read their tiny, just easy book. Okay. Their pamphlet. And their biographical pamphlet. Okay, and check this out. This bitch just messaged me. He's like, "Miss, I'm not ready for tomorrow. Can I do it next week?" And then another one said, "Me too." And then a third one said, "Me too."
The reply comes back, "Nah, bitch.
I
You can't.
Nah, you can't. I think I'm gonna be like, you do it tomorrow or you get a 0. Case closed. I told you, bitches.
Let's workshop this. Let's
Okay,
workshop this
all
reply. So
Okay.
it should be, first of all, this is a collegiate scene.
Yes. This is what academia has come to, people.
Mm-hmm. It should be polite. It should be professional, and it should cut deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give me some language?
No.
Okay.
I was thinking like, unfortunately, due to the circumstances of you having known the assignment from its inception and its due date, I am unable
My hands are
to
tied.
accommodate your asinine request.
I like the word asinine in there. I'm unable to accommodate your asshole request.
That's what it is. Your asshole request.
Because not only did I escort them to the library to get these books, but I told them every day in class, read your book. Guess what else I did? I set aside time for us to sit there and read our books. I sat even there and read with them at the same time. And here they come to me with this.
Begging.
They come to me begging. Oh, God. Okay.
The state of the world.
It's sad.
So this moves us into episode 28.
2, 8.
2, 8.
2, 8.
8. No, 2, 8.
8, 2.
So for this episode, better yet, for next episode, we ask that you write a story using no dialogue.
No dialogue, folks.
Only narration. So get comfortable with that narrative voice and show us what you got.
I don't want to see no quotations.
Nary a quotation. Inner dialogue is fine.
Yeah.
But nothing spoken. Aloud.
Right?
Right?
I will be impressed if any of you does total... No, I don't even want inner dialogue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want only narration.
Only narration. Only the
Things
narrative
that-
voice.
Yeah, only the narrative voice. I don't even want to know what people are thinking. I want to see what they're thinking through their actions.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so show us.
Right.
Don't tell us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Show, don't tell.
All right. And the words to accompany this prompt are primary, alarm, affinity, innate, and return. How about primary?
Primary is, well, first or most basic or most important.
Yeah. I was going to say like main.
Right.
Yeah.
Main.
The main one.
You know what? You want to know something cool? One of the words which can mean primary in Mongolian is goth.
Goth?
Goth.
Goth?
Goth.
Goth?
Goth.
Goth?
Goth.
Okay, we're going nowhere.
Okay. Which means river.
Oh.
Yeah. So Sidiv is like theme. So Goth Sidiv is like the main theme, the river theme. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
I think that is so cool. You know what? I never realized how interesting it was until this moment. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I just learned that Goth means the main, you know, but it also means river. But it's like the river theme is the main theme.
Huh.
And primary is an adjective and a noun. In primary, we learned.
Oh, yeah. Primary school.
Well, that's an adjective.
Yeah.
In primary, I can imagine British people being like, in primary, we did this and this and that.
Yeah. Oh, and you can have a primary could refer to a type of election.
Yeah, the primaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, how about alarm?
Alarm. Okay, so alarm is either a noun or a verb. As a noun, it can be the thing that you set to wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It can be like a tornado alarm. It's like
A klaxon.
What?
A klaxon.
Really? What's that?
It's like the sound that is made from an alarm.
What?
Like a klaxon.
Is it like CLAXON?
CLAXON, a loud horn or alarm that makes a warning sound.
How
Klaxon.
cool.
Yeah.
Klaxon.
Okay. Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, a klaxon.
Yeah.
Hey, that might be one of my new favorite words. In fact, I think I'm going to name one of my plants that.
Klaxon.
Yeah. In fact, I might name a child that. Klaxon. Like there are children named that, aren't there?
Ooh,
Or
that
that
I'm sure I don't
Claxton.
know.
Claxton, Braxton.
Oh, yeah.
You know what
I
I'm saying?
worked with a Braxton. Yeah.
Was he weird and loud?
No, he was weird and very, very quiet.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so alarm, that alarms me, that scares me, that makes me nervous, makes me uncomfortable. Alarm makes me on high alert,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it can also be an adjective.
Yeah. Like,
Alarm clock.
or an alarm system.
Yeah.
Like a security system.
It can be anything but an adverb.
Yeah.
It also cannot be a preposition.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a very small pool
Yeah.
of words that are preps.
Right. Is there a word that can be a noun, verb, adjective, adverb, and preposition?
As soon as you add in preposition, I'm sure no.
I feel like there might be.
Are any prepositions an adverb? No. Okay, so okay, so
Wait, did you like that face I was making?
I just see yeah. Next, affinity, not infinity,
Right,
but
I was gonna say-
affinity.
Not to be confused with infinity.
Correct.
Or effinity. Affinity is, it's like a liking of something. It's like, I have an affinity for divinity.
Like the candy?
That somehow reminds me of like
That's such white people food.
Divinity.
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 And
That's what my relatives used to call it, divinity.
oh, ours was divinity.
Well, ours was the same word, but they would just say divinity. They were old.
Right. And we
Divinity.
didn't put nearly the enunciation on that last T. It's
Oh, wow.
divinity.
Wow. We put
Divinity.
so much. We're at divinity. Well, I didn't do that, but the old people did that. It reminds me of conjunction, junction, what's your function? I've got
Schoolhouse
an
Rock.
affinity for divinity.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
You're right.
So-
it does have shades of Schoolhouse Rock in there
Right?
somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, so affinity can only be a noun. Well, I guess it could be a adjective.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It could be an adjectival noun. It could be, like, oh, welcome to Affinity Station. At Affinity Station.
I reject that.
You discuss the things that you like, that you have an affinity for. All right.
Related terms, kinship, rapport, resonance.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So yeah, affinity and innate.
Okay, this one is very important. So innate, similar to like inherent. It's, it's something that is natural within you. Humans have an innate, what is that word? Imperative to survive.
We do not have an innate ability to swim, however.
Really?
We do to a degree, in that you can toss a baby in the water and they may swim.
Yeah.
They may swim,
I thought they always did.
but they may not.
Oh,
as well.
shit. So some people have an innate ability to swim.
Yeah, kind of. But that's probably a bad example.
Okay.
But
Can you give me a
innate.
better example?
Probably not. You could say like he seemed to have an innate understanding of typing or something. I don't know.
How lame.
I know. It's like think of something typing.
Okay, do you have an innate understanding of anything that other people don't have an innate understanding of?
No.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know what is innate to others. Nor do I know that I had anything innate.
I think everybody has something innate.
What's an attribute of you that you would consider innate?
Okay, so this is really nerdy, and this makes me a hypocrite for just now saying that an innate ability to type is lame. I have an innate spelling ability.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
you're right.
I know that's really lame and stupid
Mm-hmm.
and nerdy, but in every language that I've studied, I can spell shit that I've never seen before.
Interesting.
I just know how to spell shit. I don't know why.
Even prior to your being inundated in Latin and Greek?
Yeah. When I was I was always a good speller in English when I was little. And I remember we used to have spelling tests every Friday, and whoever got like the top grade would get to go to the cafeteria and get like donuts from the vending machine. And it was always me.
Uh-huh.
Always. But then
always.
Always.
No exceptions.
No exceptions, never. But then whenever I started learning Mongolian, my friend Starjoy, he would start telling me words that I had never seen before in Mongolian and trying to get me to spell them, and I would spell them. And he was like, "How do you know how to spell that?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just do."
Because G status.
At spelling, which is super nerdy.
Yeah.
But
donuts.
Donuts. I mean, need I say more?
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then whenever I was in Saudi Arabia, my students would tell me words and be like, write this on the board, miss, try to spell this word. And I could most times spell it. And they'd be like, oh my God, how did you know that? And I was like, I don't know. I've got an innate spelling ability.
You're so unflattering to people that you imitate. Oh my God. How could you do that? Sorry.
I'm actually just like a bitch. No, I don't have any other skills, okay, but I can spell. Damn it.
Well, spell this. Return.
Are you serious?
It's our last word.
What a boring word.
Return.
Ew.
There's just sometimes when we're recording this podcast, I desperitely wish we had video so you could see the ludicrous looks that Rachel gives me.
Can you just describe that look?
That was a look of just complete and utter indignation and just absolutely does not abide the word return as one of our 5 options for episode 28.
Ew.
Just borderline disgust. Contempt. Great word. Yeah.
Okay. That's how I felt.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so
it came right through.
Great. Return. Okay, so here's the thing about return. We're approaching tax season.
Mm-hmm.
A tax return.
We aren't approaching it. We are in it.
No, we're not.
Tax season begins January 1.
It's not due until April 15th.
But
right?
it's a season. The season is like months.
Okay, all right. You're right. You're right. Have you already finished your taxes?
Yeah, we have our return already.
Fuck you. I thought the government was going to withhold everything good from us from now on.
Give them some time. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
All right. Well, return, it can be a verb or a noun or an adjective. Yes, it can.
Yes, it can.
It's the return slot. This is where you put the items that you're returning into that slot.
Mm-hmm.
That particular one.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You can return home.
Oh, yeah. It's like to go back or to give back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go back or give back.
Go back or give back.
Given back or gone back.
Yeah, given, gone, back, and go.
Or having been given back or having gone back.
Having been, having gotten, been back.
Having had gone back is the technical term. having had gone back or having had given back.
Uh-huh.
That's the term.
Okay. So those words again: primary, alarm, affinity, innate, and return.
Woo!
Woo!
Lord, I was born a rambling mess.
You're good. If you want to be like these wonderful writers and submit your story to You Write, head on over to our subreddit at reddit.com/r/YouWritePod.
Hold up.
If you're unable to submit a story
If you are unable to submit a story this week, no worries. Read and comment. You can help out by reading and commenting on other people's stories.
And each time you post a story or leave a comment on someone else's submission, you increase your chances of having your story read on the podcast.
You can also reach us at yourightpod@gmail.com.
If you like our show and want to help support us, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/YouWrite.
If you are unable to donate, that's fine. You can help us by sharing the podcast with other writers and non-writers alike.
And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you know as soon episodes. Yeah.
Also, be sure to leave us a rating and review in your podcatcher of choice.
We will be reading one review on each episode eventually. So get creative.
Yeah. And remember, join us next week on You Write,
a podcast where you write.
Lord, I was born a rambling man, trying to make it, just doing the best I can.
See y'all next week.